First, though, is the government betraying disabled people over the plans to change how benefits work for people who receive personal independence payments? 0207 862 2222. They're PIPs, they're called. So we're joined by the broadcaster and disability consultant Shani Dhanda on this one. Welcome to you.
Hi.
And I know you sort of been watching this, tearing your hair out the last day or so.
Yeah.
The personal independence payments, you say, are being misrepresented.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misinformation with how they were reported. A lot of people think they are some sort of unemployment benefit, but that's not the case. So PIP stands for Personal Independence Payment, and it's a disability benefit that helps to offset the unavoidable extra costs that disabled people face. On average, Scopes say that this is around £975 a month. And in 2022, I added up mine for the year and it came to over £13,000.
Yeah, I can well believe that, yeah.
And a big...
So you claim that?
I do claim PIP.
But you also work, so you're not claiming unemployment benefit at all.
No.
But you're claiming PIP.
That's correct, yeah.
The issue seems to be, Shani, that there are pretty enormous amounts paid to people who have anxiety and depression. And the government has decided that that's not really a reason to get the payment anymore.
Well, I disagree. Mental health is actually the highest category now, the highest prevalence of disability in this country.
But that's what their argument is. They say it cannot have gone from being a relatively small category to a massive one.
But what have we just lived through? Of course it will. And when the services that we need, the vital services, are not receiving the funding that they need, of course it's going to have an impact on people's mental health. Like, I don't want to wear resilience as a badge of honour, but it's really hard being a disabled person in the UK. It's such a hostile place to be. The government are calling us benefit cheats and work shy, you know, saying we don't pay tax, whatever. I've worked since I was 16. That was after being rejected from over 100 job applications. I can work, I want to work, I want to contribute to society, as do many other disabled people.
So what if someone says to you, but Shani, that's the whole point, you are working despite your disability, and yet there are so many, particularly young people, who say they're too anxious or depressed to get a job.
But you know, there's at least 16 million disabled people in this country. At the moment, only 3.5 million are claiming PIP. And you know, like, a lot of people then throw in, oh, you know, there's loads of fraud. There isn't. It's 0.2%. It's not.
Well, what do you think, Wilfred? Fundamentally, this is about, is the government right to say we're going to take anxiety and depression off the list?
The government is absolutely right to say that, because what we have to do is that we have to separate people like you, OK, that's disabled, but you're doing your bit to work. There is a massive amount of people who abuse the system, and I personally have experience of that, where people could go to the GP, they could get signed off sick for depression. You know, what people are now doing is that they're using this word mental health as a justification for what is about the everyday ups and downs of life. And therefore, they think the government there should be compensating them because they're having a bad day. They've got a bit of depression. I think, you know, what they should start doing therapy or talking to sort of friends. But I really do think this thing has gone out of hand. And I get really cross when somebody flashes a sick note to me from their GP that says they're signed off weak.
Yasmin is shaking her head.
I mean, how many people have you dissed in that answer? How many people? You've dissed GPs as if they're sitting around. Listen, just listen. I listened to you. Okay. Now listen to me. You've dissed GPs as if GPs do this, what, to have a laugh, to rip us all off? GPs are really careful.
Well, they want to get the patient out.
We've lived here, we've lived under such stress, ordinary people, for 14 years. There are no homes available that once used to be available. There are no jobs available for young people. I talked to the mother of somebody I've known for a long time. Her daughter's got a double degree in physics and in law, and she cannot get work. This idea that the young are all sitting around. So she's now got very depressed.
I can't believe she can't get work.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to listen to the mother.
She may not get the work that she wants. But if she comes, I could give her a job tomorrow. But she may decide, no, I'm too qualified for this.
Yeah, I don't think I want her to work for you as a grocer's work. But can I just say, my sister, who was 10 years older than me, never could work. Because at one point, I didn't even know when that was because I wasn't in this country and she was, she began to be mentally ill. and she got very frightened of going outside. Then she was diagnosed, I think misdiagnosed as a schizophrenic, and put on tablets, which meant that she was zombified. And then she had early onset dementia. She never worked.
Yeah, but
because
that's
she couldn't.
at the higher end. I'm sure
but that's what I'm
Wilfred
trying to
would
say. Look,
disagree.
there are a lot of people...
Sorry, Shani.
Yeah, and we have a welfare state. It is supposed to help people that are unable to
I understand,
work.
but there are 360,000 people claiming PIP for anxiety and depression. It's double the figure 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's living under the
It's
Tories.
3 times
And a
as many.
pandemic and lockdown.
Yeah, but-
and also, can I just add to this conversation? Only last week, the UN announced that the UK government has failed disabled people.
Yeah, but that's
So this is like a long assault on disabled
All right.
people.
Whether they're right to say that, and they're not attacking you, but people with anxiety and depression, particularly people who are young, need to be told there's no benefit for you. You could take time off work, but the state won't pay you. Jane in Lincolnshire, what do you think?
I think it's a high panel. I think it's totally wrong. I received PIP. I'm now thinking, am I going to lose my car that I get through my mobility? And it's all in parts. It's not all just, oh, I've got anxiety, which I do suffer with borderline personality disorder. But it's not just all about mental health to get PIP. It's a part of it.
What are you claiming for, if you don't mind me asking? You've obviously got some mental health problems.
Yeah, I've got mental health problems, but I've also got a bad back. I had a tumour removed off my spine, and I've got arthritis in my knees. And where I live, if I lose my car, I'm literally housebound because there's no buses, there's nothing.
And there's no job you can do at all.
I've just had a crash. When with borderline, I sometimes have a crash and I have to sleep for 3 days. I used to be a hairdresser, so I've paid into the system, and it's just it's not just all about getting it, is mental health. It's all different parts of the long application form to get it. It's not just you sign off on mental health, and it's a long series of a thick questionnaire that you have to fill in.
Oh, I know. And then you're seen dancing at a wedding or something, and then the papers preach your photo. And thank you, Jane. We'll take more calls on this. Lots to say about this. Now, your calls on the government's plan to alter how benefits are claimed. Do you think they are betraying disabled people? We've heard from Shani today. 0207 862 2222. Let's speak to John in Newcastle about this. Do you think this is a betrayal, John?
Yes, I do. First, I'd like. I can't hear you.
No, we're listening. That's because we're not speaking. We are listening to you, John.
First, I'd like to not point a finger, but just say to Wilfred, he's going on about sick notes and people having depression and things like that. I'm an ex-military man. I did 22 years as an infantier. So that means that I, from 19 whatever, has been in most major conflicts that this country's been involved in. Wow. I have friends now that can't walk. They've lost their limbs. They can't even go out of the house. I lost a brother who hung himself. You know, we found him hanging from a tree because he couldn't get the help that he needed. And you're sat there saying that people just walk into a doctor's and get a sick note. It took them 21 years to get help for him.
Let Wilfred reply to this.
Look, I think what we need to do, this is a very, very important debate, is this. There are people who genuinely actually should get our support. I accept that. But I can't accept people not accepting the fact that there's a lot of people out there that are abusing the system. That makes it very
John,
difficult.
not me. I mean, John's asking why.
So John, it makes it difficult for the people that are in need. And I'm saying from my experience, when I've worked with people, and I know actually there's nothing wrong with them, but they've been able to take time off because they've been able to produce a sick note. And I believe that is abusing the system. Some of those people then go on to actually live off the state by saying they've got some form of depression.
John in Newcastle, what do you make of that? Because Wilfred is an employer, so he does know a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but that might be him. That might be what Wilfred thinks. But I know people that have served, that have done their bit, just like all other people, and have gone through, went for help, couldn't get. When I first went to a doctor to ask why my personality was changing, you know what he told me? The military doctor said, just get a bottle of whiskey and it'll pass. I went to my home doctor, and my home doctor sat there, and I explained it to him, and he turned round and said to me, so you're telling me there's something mentally wrong with you? And that is an absolute disgrace.
Understood.
As I said, I lost a brother.
No, I understand, and you said that, and my thoughts are with you, and all of that, and of course, you know, you've got to talk about serious mental illness among armed forces veterans here. That's not what this Mel Stride, this minister's targeting, is it, Shani? I think he's looking at the young.
They say, you know, the most severe people will be protected, but it's a lie. When I was in receipt of disability living allowance, I was awarded that indefinitely. The condition I have, it ain't going anywhere, it's only going to get worse. I have to keep getting reassessed on PIP. So it's not true.
Every year, or how?
It's every few years.
Right.
And also, don't you think it's ironic that as a society we were really encouraged to talk about our mental health, but now if you want to try and get support for it, there isn't any. If you want to try and get any welfare support for it, you're demonised. And also, what we're doing here is we're creating a hierarchy of disability. Mental health is just as important as physical health
Is there not? But is there not a hierarchy of disability in that some people are more disabled than others?
Exactly.
There are, but why are we further demonising people who live with mental health conditions?
Well,
That's
see,
just as difficult.
your view on what the government is saying, David, and they've absolutely been specific here that people with anxiety and depression, Mel Stride, the minister, says people are going through life's ups and downs. We should not be paying people to deal with the ordinary difficulties of life. That's what he says. Dave in Buckinghamshire, hi.
Hi, good morning, Jeremy.
What do you think of that?
I just think the whole argument is being just misunderstood ever so slightly, I would suggest, and misrepresented simply because I don't think we're aiming this particular policy at the most acute disabled people in the country. I think we're very tolerant, generous, kind people in this country, and we understand there's some of the difficulties. We can never live that experience, but we understand some of the difficulties that the most disabled people are going through. I think what we're looking at, really, and what the minister's looking at, is the amount of young people, particularly of working age between 18 and 30 years of age, who have removed themselves from work entirely, and have cited mental health as being a reason for that.
And undoubtedly, you're bang on with that, but the question is whether the government is justified in identifying them like that.
I think there's something that people can do. Obviously, depending on the level of disability, there's something that all people can do, really, to some extent, some form of work. And I think to omit yourself from all forms of work is a little bit too black and white, really. And there are shades of grey in all of this, because the current situation is unsustainable. I don't think this country can afford to keep...
Shani.
I disagree. Not everyone can work, and that's why we have a welfare state. And also, we keep coming back to this as if it's an unemployment benefit. It isn't. PIP helps people to live with the unavoidable extra costs. I live and work in London. Only a quarter of the tube stations are accessible. I pay thousands every year in taxes. That's got nothing to do with, you know, me not being able to get to the tube station. Is I can't access it.
But yes, undoubtedly justified. But the question is whether a young person who is depressed should be ruled out of work.
They need the support as disabled people, whatever condition we have. If we're not getting,
you would call them disabled.
If they have a diagnosis, then
of depression.
Yeah.
You see these notices on the underground, they're really good. Some disabilities are not visible. And that's so enlightening.
Disabilities are not visible. 70% of disabilities are not visible. And also, this is not an unemployment benefit, and mental health has to be taken seriously. There's not the support for it, and we're talking about people that are out of jobs. What if they never got a chance to be in jobs?
Let's go to Vonda in Nottinghamshire. Hi, Vonda.
Hello, panel.
Is the government right to focus in on these anxiety and depression cases?
No, because from what I've seen over the past 15, 16 years, budgets have been slashed to the bone. So there is no help really for people, especially with mental health.
Understood.
It takes. I had to wait. I think it was 5 years to get to see an NHS psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave up at 4 years, applied for PIP, but the PIP goes to pay for the therapy.
Understood. Thank you, Vonda. Ian in Glasgow, what do you think?
Morning, panel.
Morning.
I think, the government is wrong in this. It was only a few years ago, I think, that they tried this with an outside panel.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that was. Was it universal benefit, universal credit, where they were basically bringing people in for interviews and all that, and
that was the Ian Duncan Smith.
People got very cross about it. But yeah, so you don't think they should be doing this, Ian? Because their worry is it's £50 billion and it's going up to £70 billion by 2030.
Okay,
the bill.
Just to give you a wee bit of background with myself, Jeremy. I'm 57, so I've worked for the last 40 years, since I was 17. They thought I took a stroke last year. It affected my speech, and my memory it's just totally shot just now. It turns out, it wasn't. They found out quickly that it wasn't a stroke. I had an MRI scan a couple of weeks ago, and I've got a small vessel disease in my brain.
I knew about that. Yeah, which is there for the whole of your life, basically, isn't it?
And it's really common it's more common with type 1 diabetics. So I struggle to speak, as you can see. Now, I've always been a normal speaker, without sounding too bad, but I stutter and stammer. The brain freezes I get are unbelievable. I currently get £390 limited capability to work, and I don't get anything else because I've got a small pension of £260.
But you're almost retired early, aren't you?
Well, what had actually happened was through the pandemic and things, I cashed in a few pensions to make sure there wasn't any sort of debt getting built up or anything like that. So I made sure everything. That's why I cashed that in. But
listen, I mean, there's no question, but you are entitled to benefits for not working. You'd agree with that, Wilfred, would you?
Most definitely. You know,
you've had a really hard time, and a physical disability. You've had a stroke and everything. Are you planning to work again or hoping to work again, Ian?
You know, see, at this moment in time, I really don't know. Do you know, Jeremy, there's an additional benefit because, as I say, all in, I've got £620 a month. I applied for a different benefit, and because of my diabetes, if I'm sitting watching the telly and just about to have my dinner, I've got to jag before I have my dinner. If something catches my eye in the telly, I can't remember whether I've jagged or not, so I can't jag twice, or I could be in a lot of bother.
Okay.
So when I went for the additional benefit, they gave me 1 point out of 8 for that. I didn't get the additional benefit. I'm waiting for an appeal, which is going to take.
It's a good point. Thank you. There's a good point to Shani to end on, which is that these benefits are not hard to qualify for. Correct?
They are hard to qualify.
They're not easy to qualify for.
No, you have to have tons of medical evidence, which is why I think what saddens me the most is this whole rhetoric around, just go and give a sick note. It's not as easy, benefits are not handed out like sweets.
OK, thank you so much for coming in, Shani Dhanda, and talking with us today. See you again soon. Later